So,
All right. Welcome back to Inspired Forward. I'm Dan Trinidad, and I am beyond thrilled and excited to introduce my very dear friend, Daniel Harkavy. He's the founder, CEO mentor of Building Champions. He's the author of a couple tremendous books that I still refer to frequently, Becoming a Coaching Leader, and his most recent book, Living Forward. Most importantly, he's married to a wonderful woman and a father of 4 plus. He could explain the plus. And honestly, he's one of the few men I know that truly walks the talk. I mean, I admire this guy for his commitment to God, his family, his work, his team. I mean, he's got a heart of gold, and truly everything he preaches, everything he coaches, I mean, he walks it, and you know, I think that's why he's so darn successful with his company and his life. So welcome, Daniel.
wow. Thank you for your very kind and affirming words. It means a ton to me, an absolute ton, and I love you. And it's good to be here with you. Really
That's
great
great.
with you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And I could say the same stuff about you, man. I really could.
Well, I don't know, but
I do.
Well, thank you. So what year did you start Building Champions?
Started the company in
late 90s, right? Mid 90s?
Yeah, 95. Okay, I took off 95, moved up here 95. I started it in March of 96.
Wow. Holy cow. So your company's almost as old as mine. And I believe, I mean, you were my first coach.
Yeah.
I think I was early in your leadership coaching. I don't know, but what was cool about that was we were both brand new to, you know, growing our businesses and learning about business and life and all those things. And it was really cool having you as a coach, because, you know, being fairly new to you and your company, I mean, you poured into me, and lots of our culture, lots of our systems are definitely because of you. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. It was a fun time. You were the first CEO that I coached, and I remember that. I remember the first mega producer that I coached. I remember the first CEO that I coached. I remember my first couple of live days with a few of you that were willing to take the risk. And yeah, coaching you was a privilege, man. Privilege.
Right, thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm watching you. I just your growth has been just amazing. So, I mean, the first time getting in front of large groups, you and I talked about the nerves and challenges with that. And man, when I see you speak now, I mean, you are dialed in. You're one of the best, and it's really cool to watch that development.
Thank you.
Daniel, you still coach, and you are definitely connected to the mortgage industry and real estate space. What are you most excited about right now?
I'm excited. I'm excited for the next chapter of Building Champions. I've got a lot of things cooking on the forefront. So in 2019, right here, right now, we're in the midst of a pretty significant reorganization, and it started in concept 2 years ago. In concept in 2017, after even casting a bigger vision for the company, we felt like, all right, we're accomplishing everything we set out to accomplish. So I guess I should go back to October 16. October 16, what we said was that the company is starting to feel comfortable, and it feels like it's serving us well. And I said, and that's really wrong. Because I know that if I get to a place to where the asset, the entity starts to serve me well in my lifestyle, then what I'll do is I'll become a taker instead of a leader. And what I did was I said, we need a vision that's going to be even bigger, that's going to stretch the heck out of us, and it's going to stretch the heck out of me. And we've always seen ourselves as, at some point, at some day, we're going to be the premier coaching company for business and organizational leaders worldwide. We've always had that statement in there, right? But worldwide is a big statement, and how do you measure premier? So we started to put some teeth on it. And I'm not a guy who is looking forward to retirement. I'm a guy who wants to stay engaged and active for a good long period of time. And I've got guys on my team that are in their 70s, and I love how they live life, CEO mentors. So we put together an even bigger vision. And then what we did was we said, okay, what's going to be required in order for us to go from here to there? 17, we started pressing into it. And the two words that came to me, Dan, were sustainable and scalable. I said, we need to make sure that the organization is both scalable and sustainable. Scalable so that we have the ability to equip coaches to really be transformational regardless of where they're at. It doesn't matter if they're here, they're in Mexico, they're in Germany, it doesn't matter, right? And we need to be able to deliver the same experience wherever we are. And the business needs to be really healthy. So it needs to be sustainable. The models and how we roll product out and how we have the organization structured needs to be such that it's driven based upon the actual coaching engagements, the reputation, the brand, the content, the demand generation system, et cetera. And that's different because when you and I first started working together, the organization's real growth was because I stood up in front of people at Todd Duncan's events. Thank you very much, Mr. Todd Duncan. And I sold, I sold me, and you clients sold building champions, and it's just a different game today. So we're thinking differently. And, as I look forward, we're like at the 90% mark of bringing a lot of this real strategic work to fruition. So I'm super excited about that.
Is there anything you can talk about there? Like, so how do you make it sustainable?
Well, what you have to do in a founder-led organization is you need to make a shift from founder-led to professionally managed. And you need to make sure that in our business, which is it's transformational business all through coaching engagements, you need to make sure that your content and your processes will lead to really favorable outcomes over and over and over again. If you have such significant impact because you've got great content and you've got great coaching engagements, great coaching interventions, you put those two things together, then you can figure out how to tell the story with demand generation, with how you work referrals, with how you open up new markets. That the brand of building champions actually means more than somebody's name, right? So our strategic bets are coaching excellence, content, and demand generation. Imagine that as an arrow. We're shooting that arrow out, and we're investing in all three parts of that arrow: coaching excellence, content, and demand generation. We're shooting that out into a future target, which is always around more lives transformed. And we're reorganizing the bow so that we can do that with more efficacy.
Man, I love that clarity. Oh, holy cow.
That's fun.
So I interrupted you to get examples. What else?
All right. I'm excited about, hold on. Hang tight. I just got the new Surfer's Journal. I'm so excited to read this thing, but that's not it. I'm excited about this. This is my next book. Just signed a deal on it. This is the manuscript. We've been going through it. We started the editing process yesterday. And 1 year from today, I can't believe how long it takes. The manuscript's done. Now we're just fine tuning and editing between now and March 1st. Then it goes to the the publishing team. And January 21st, 2020, a leadership book's going to be coming out, and I am super excited about the content of it because we've been coaching big organizations through this for the last 4 years, and it just works. It's
oh man, that's
cool
so
model.
exciting. So when did you conceptualize this? When did you start thinking about, I want to write another book, because writing a book can't be easy? And when did you actually, say go and start writing?
Yeah, so I didn't start out with the intent to write a book. What I started out with was the book's working title is called Simple Leadership. And the title that I came up with, this construct before, was originally the 5 perspectives of a leader. Because as I'm doing my executive coaching work and the team of coaches here are doing ours, we we find blind spots or opportunities with our clients so that they can improve leadership effectiveness. And now having the privilege of doing what I get to do for so long, I'm always looking for ways to take what's complicated and make it super simple. So here's the premise of the book. A leader's effectiveness is determined by just two things: the decisions you make and the influence you have. That's all. You want effective leadership? Make better decisions and grow your influence. You'll be a more effective leader, but it's not that easy. Most leaders, if you really start to try to debate that, and I've debated that with some of the most amazing leaders in business today, they will see that, you know what, it all does come into that, because decision making is strategy, it's execution, it's team selection, it's alignment, it's coaching, it's investment, it's resourcing. What kind of decisions are you making? This is really important, because our decision making abilities right here, right now, are under attack, more so than I've ever seen in my many years of leadership. It's harder now to make those decisions than ever before.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Because of this. Because of this.
That's a cell phone for the people listening on the radio.
That is the iPhone, one of the greatest tools. But the iPhone, which 11 years ago didn't exist, what it's done is it's taken what was already a fast-paced reality and it's made it faster. So leaders don't have the time to think that they used to. And this is a really big point, and I have no idea how we drop nuggets with all of those in your tribe, but here's a nugget. This is one coming right now. And it's stating the obvious. When I started in my first management and leadership role, I used a payphone, and I had a big box pager. And if you needed me, my commitment was that within an hour, I would call you back. That pager would go off and I would find a payphone and I'd get back to somebody within an hour. And this is back when I was a loan officer back in the 80s. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that was exceptional service, an hour, right? Then you go through all the evolutions of technology, and now all of a sudden you've got a big shoebox size $2,000 phone mounted in the middle of your car, and that's amazing. And how you can call quickly, and you can, as a loan officer, you can deliver real-time service so that when a customer is sitting in a real estate agent's office, you can do the pre-qual right then and there. Well, that was then. But there was no email back then, right? There was no text messaging back then. There was maybe 25% less of the means of communication as there are today. Right now, every day, I have at least 11 different ways people communicate with me. 11.
Wow.
So if you think about that, there are 11 ways that I can have a conversation that I actually need to have conversations. Everything from the common ones, which is texting, phone calls, Zoom meetings that we have, email, live meetings. Then you have Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. Those are all means that you stay, most of us do. And then you have, I said LinkedIn. Then you have all your efficiency apps, such as Teams or, for us, Chorus or these others. And it's like, there's a lot of ways to communicate. Yeah. All right. So why is it harder to make decisions? Because the more accessible we are, the more reactive we're forced to be. Because when we're so accessible as leaders, it means people have access to us at all times and they're not aware of our schedule. And what happens to us leaders is in a world where technology has made us so accessible and where we have such real-time access to people, not just around our community, but around the country and actually around the world, carving out the time to think that we used to have 20, 25 years ago as leaders, it requires a lot more muscle. It requires a lot more grit, a lot more courage and determination. So when leaders hit the lid, when organizations hit the lid, it's because the leaders hit the lid first. They stopped thinking. They stopped intentionally thinking. They stopped strategizing and really wrestling with concepts, ideas, problems, and solutions. And they live in reactive mode. So I could riff on this forever, but that is, it's harder for us to make decisions. And as we struggle there, our influence starts to wane, and overall our leadership effectiveness will suffer. So you asked me earlier, how'd you come up with the idea to write the book? I didn't. What I said was a leader's effectiveness is determined by those two things. And a few years ago, I said you need to see your business from 5 different vantage points or 5 perspectives to make better decisions and have more influence. And then I started working that through with clients. And then I realized, oh, it's not 5, it's 6. And then I realized, oh, it's not 6, it's 7. And then I let 7 sit for a while. And it is 7.
It is 7.
And now I'm ready to write the book. So the book's written, and here we go.
Man, you are so good.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you for that. And man, I'm really excited to get this book again. So how do you shut it all off? How does Daniel Harkavy, you've got your cell phone and you've got your email and all the other ways people can get a hold of you. What do you do? What's your strategy for peace?
Yeah, well, that's a big question. So my strategy for peace, well, for me, that's all down to me being a man of faith. You know, I'm a Christ follower. That's my source of peace, right? So those of you listening, don't tune me out right now. I'm not going to preach at you, but you need to know if I'm going to get asked a question, I'm going to let you know who I am. And my belief is that understanding that I've been created by an amazing creator to make a positive difference in the lives of other people. And I'm just one little character in a really big story, and I don't have to have it all figured out. And I can see a destination point that's better than my current reality. And then I've got a helper. That gives me peace. There you go. That was a big theological answer. But how do I practically, how do I shut down the machine and find that space in my life to have the right perspective? You know, Dan, what's at stake for you and me and everybody listening is the battle to be present.
Yeah.
This is the greatest fight of our time, is how do I shut this overwhelmed, overstimulated, overaccessible mind? How do I shut it down to where the whole world can be going on around me, but all that matters right here, right now is you. And if we can develop more competence and heart, head and heart around the value of this right here, right now, well, we'll live a better life. And this is what's coming under attack. So for me, I have to put in boundaries that enable me to give my best to my best. I have a routine where every single morning I start my day off the same way. I create a lot of space to where there's no access to me. No news, no Facebook, no email, no texting. When I wake up in the morning, this is my time. And I have myself, my first hour to just get this, my head and my heart right. And it's at my pace. It's really being intentional with my breathing. It's what I'm reading. It's how I'm praying and meditating. That sets me up. And I don't care if that's happening in my living room or if it's happening in a 200-foot hotel room when I'm on the road. I have to start my day off the same way. And then I have to have nice breaks throughout the day to where I can shut it down. And I love what Dr. Henry Cloud says. He says, we either cause or allow everything in our life. We cause or allow. Well, think about that with regards to your schedule. People are like, I can't do that. I'm too busy. I'm back to back to back all day long. I don't have time to take lunch. I don't have time to go for a run at lunchtime or go date my wife at lunchtime or whatever it may be, right? Well, actually, most of us actually do have the freedom to choose a different path. It's just, what are we making priority? So for me, I battle with it every day, Dan. You know, I don't allow phones at the dinner table. When I'm done at the end of the day, when I go home and I'm done. There are times in the evening where if my youngest is doing homework and my wife's doing something and there's not a lot of engagement in the home. There are times where I'll look at what I have going for the next day and even do a little bit more prep. And that might be one night out of a week if I've got something heavy the next day. But most of the time when I work, I want to work hard. And when I go home, I want to be present.
Yeah, man, the discipline. That's so cool. I operate very similarly,
Oh, you do?
although I get caught up in distraction often in the evenings when my wife is starts working and gets distracted. And the interesting thing is I have everything on my iPad now. So I like books, but I have books on my iPad, and my goals and everything else is on my iPad. So I find myself getting stuck in that. The mistake I often make is clicking that stupid button, Facebook. And I haven't done it in 2019. That's been one of my major goals, is to get completely off and be present, because man, that thing just can take you away.
It really
So, so I know you more than me. So I've been talking, to many people, mostly men, that are stuck. They're in the ages, they're approaching maybe 40, up into the mid 60s, and they're just stuck. They're divorced, or they lost their money in the last huge recession, or they're dealing with the loss of a loved one or job. They're most often is that they just didn't become who they thought they would become, and they feel as though time is running out. And that's really what's prompted me to start a podcast and try really with the goal to try to help these people. That's why I call it Inspire Forward, not being stuck. And I know you call it, I think, the drift. And I don't know if you're prepared to talk about that a little bit, but I've heard you talk a couple of times on the drift, and I think that is what the drift is, isn't it?
Yeah, the drift, the way I see the drift is it's allowing yourself day by day to just fall off course, right? So the book that I wrote a couple years ago with my client and friend Michael Hyatt, we wrote Living Forward. And, the subtitle on Living Forward, the proven plan to stop drifting and get the life you want. The forces at work in our lives are strong, and it's so easy to get off course. So this is for all of you who are listening or watching, and you're going, you know what Dan Trinidad just shared is my current reality. Like I have regret, or I'm not living up to my full potential, or I'm apathetic, or I'm fearful, or I'm just unfulfilled and bummed. The challenges of life don't discriminate. And this is not a poor person reality. This is a poor person to the most mega wealthy of all reality. So I get in my day to actually sit with billionaires. And that's an amazing deal. To listen to somebody who's got hundreds of millions or billions or whatever it may be, and to listen them wrestle with the very same things that somebody who has not been so fortunate on the money side, but that doesn't mean any less successful, right? To sit and just listen to how they're navigating through life and what they're having to deal with is just fascinating. And I am absolutely convinced that the challenges of life don't discriminate. So yeah, the loss of a loved one, or a financial calamity, or unmet expectation with your vocation, your career, or distance in your relationships, and brokenness in parenting, and the weight of taking care of your parents. All of this stuff is real, and it's happening all around us, if not to us right now. So how do we respond? Well, humans like to think that they're really logical and that we make decisions based upon all of the data, but that's not true. We will actually bias data and find data that will support the decision that we want to make. And the truth of the matter is most of us make decisions based upon how we feel, which is why corporate America spend so much money in making us feel certain ways when we buy their products, right? So we make decisions based upon how we feel. Well, if we don't fight that feeling emotional current and we go through our days and our weeks and our months and our years making decisions based upon how we feel, we will drift so far off course, because although our emotions are real, we feel them, it doesn't mean that they're right. It doesn't mean that they're true. We might say, you know what, I feel sad, or I would feel better over here, or I don't want to feel that, so I'll do this. And we make big decisions based upon feel and what we think we deserve. And the truth of the matter is we drift, and we wind up in places in life where we actually make our lives a heck of a lot harder than we need to. We screw ourselves up, truthfully.
So do you, when you're coaching someone, is it to stop, not get into this emotional feeling and focus on wise decisions? Is don't go backwards, but take where you're at today and have a vision for where you're going to go and start making decisions to go in that direction?
100% right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is, number one, stop and realize that the moments that you have are a precious gift. The Hebrew scriptures, if we're going to talk living forward, we're going to talk Psalm 90:12. So teach us to number our days so that we may gain a heart of wisdom. I can't not quote that around this topic. Teach us to number our days so that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Our heads are deceived. Even though I've got no hair up here and I've got all the gray here and I'm going to be 55 this year, I still think and act like a kid, right? And I think, you know what, I'm a kid. This body, it's like a kid. I can still go do everything that I used to do and there'd be no consequences. But the truth of the matter is, when I look at what's happening to me and I look at what's happening around me to people that are our age, I'm starting to see the very real consequences of stacking up a whole bunch of birthdays behind you. Mm-hmm. Our bodies start to erode. They start to decay. They start to break. So when we're 20, 25, we're like, I'm a superhero. I mean, I'll never get sick. I'll never die. I've got all sorts of opportunity and time. And you get into your 50s, which is what you're talking about. You've got guys who you speak to. It's guys and gals that get in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and they realize, oh no. Like there may be, most likely is, there's more in the rear view mirror than there is out the windshield. More road behind me than there is ahead of me. And that can create an angst. Like, oh no, I need to fix things. I need to change things. And then we change things based upon feeling. So what we need to do is we need to stop and we need to align our heads with our hearts. And I've got a great exercise for that. And that's writing out your eulogy as if you were to die today. That aligns the head and the heart. It just kind of gets us in that right place. And then you look and take inventory of your entire life, every area, and you call them accounts. Because accounts, we either have growing balances in or decreasing balances in. Very rarely are they static or set for a long period of time. They're dynamic. So we look at all these accounts: my health account, my marriage account, my faith account, my friendship account, my career account, family, each of my kids. We're talking life planning now. And you cast that vision. What would you love to see for you at the age 70 with your wife for your marriage? Now, I'm going to unpack this quickly and then I'm going to turn it back over to you, because you said vision. If you have a compelling vision for what you want for each area of your life and it's worth sacrificing for, when you read it, you go, you know what? I would love to be that guy. I would love to be the guy that holds hands with his wife at the age 65, who is spending time with his most intimate and truly his best friend, who experience vibrant connection and energy when we're together. If that's really important to you and worth sacrificing for, well then that's the destination. And here we are at 2019, our current reality. It's a GPS system. So we've got our starting point. We have our destination. We know that we're going to hit all sorts of detours and roadblocks and storms between now and then, but I'm going to fight like heck to get to that destination. So now, 3 weeks from now, when Sherry is maybe not feeling well and she might says something snarky to me, or she doesn't recognize something in me, or she's a little off, instead of me matching out of emotion going, wow, you treat me that way, I'll treat you this way, I go, I know where we're going, and I know what actions I'm going to commit to every day, and I'm not going to react to make situations worse, because that's what I can control. I can control how I navigate from here to there. And you just march forward with clarity, knowing you're going to do your best to be your best every day.
Wow. So everybody who's listening, his book's Living Forward, and all this stuff is in it. I've got a stack behind me. I don't know if you could see down on my bookshelf there, but
I like that.
I got a stack. I give them away. I order 10 more and keep giving them away. Almost every loan officer that I interview or realtor that I meet with, I hand out that book, because it's so dead on. I mean, so dead on. And man, you're so eloquent in how you articulate it.
Thanks.
So I'm a huge believer in that. The technology you spoke of earlier, it's happening in the medical industry as well.
Yeah.
And there could always be tragedy that comes upon us, but staying healthy like you do, the likelihood of living a lot longer than what we kind of think is very realistic now.
Yeah.
And I find it very compelling, and it almost, so if you start thinking of, like, if we're only at halftime,
yeah,
that perspective for a 40-year-old, for a 50-year-old, now becomes, man, I'm not going to die in 15 or 20 years. So let's start making decisions as though I'm going to live to be 100 and maybe beyond 100 with the way technology is going. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Are you in agreement, or?
Well, you have to be in agreement. When you look at the average lifespan of somebody here in 2019 versus when I was born in 1964, we're 20 years ahead of where life expectancy was when I was born.
Mm-hmm.
So you just look at the advances that have been made in the last 55 years, not just technology, but understanding healthy food. Just how do you eat? The majority of the problems that people that are our age are dealing with from a health issue is because we bought into fads with regards to what healthy was, or we got lazy and we just started eating fast instead of eating good. So I think all of a sudden there's enough data out there, enough research out there going, hey, you know what? Fat-free, no good. Or, fast food all the time, no good. Take time. There's a great saying, and oh golly, I'm not even going to try to say who said it, but it's so good. And that is, if we make food our medicine today, we won't need to make medicine our food tomorrow.
Wow.
So,
very cool.
How we care for ourselves can give us a lot longer lifespan, but even more importantly than that, it can help us to have more energy every day for longer periods of time. I mean, I'm going to tell you, I don't want to live to 100 if at the age 75, I am just an absolute burden on everybody.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So I want to have maximum energy until I leave here. And the way I look at it is, hey, if that's one more week, one more day, or if that's 50 more years, what I'm going to do is I'm going to control how I live. No matter what my circumstances are, I will do the best I can to take care of the asset, which is my body. And I'll make sure that spiritually I'm sound. Emotionally, I'm healthy. Physically, I'm strong and healthy. I'm going to do whatever I can to stack the odds in my favor, while all at the same time knowing that I may not make it to the end of the podcast because I might just bing and I'm done. So
I got that. Yeah, I know that well.
I know.
So Daniel, how do you balance it all? So you alluded a little bit to it, but you really, I mean, you got a lot going on. And you know, you got the book, you got your company that's behind you, and you're responsible for that entire organization and all the people, and your beautiful wife and your children, and you've helped other children come in and get them on the right track. You surf frequently. I can see it behind you, and you know, is it time blocking? Is it going with the flow? What's your strategy for, you know, balance and well-being?
I think it's having clarity around how you want your days to go and being pretty intentional with where you invest, which basically means you get really good at saying no. Like, don't miss that. It means you get really good at saying no. And that whole FOMO thing, fear of missing out, you just can't have it. I miss out on things all the time. And I don't live a perfectly balanced life. I mean, I don't. There are days where, you know, you mentioned surfing. Surfing is something that you have to have the freedom to respond to what Mother Nature's doing. And you need to know, I've been doing it as long as I have, like I know what months I want more freedom. So I just say no in those months. And in those months, I choose to stay home more. I choose to keep a lighter schedule during those months. I choose to say no to business during those months. So I say no to money. I say no. I mean, I could easily, I could work just a whole bunch more, Dan.
Sure.
Nobody should be hearing me saying, oh, Building Champions preaches don't work hard. No, I work my butt off.
For sure.
I work my butt off. But I might do one business lunch every 6 months. I might do one business dinner locally twice every 6 months, maybe. I choose to be home with my family when I'm home. I choose to work out at lunch. I have regularly scheduled dates with my wife during the week, during lunch, so that we have that little break. It's always the best part of my day. I keep my Fridays really light. And I preach that to my team as well. So it's never perfect, Dan. I mean, I look at it, it's just, when you have your life plan and you've been doing it as long as I have, life's a matter of trade-offs. And I'm just crystal clear on what I don't want to trade off.
You sure are.
I don't want to trade certain things off, and I can't be bought for those things. And that's really what it comes down to. It's like when we drift, we're saying yes to things that will make us more money, or we're saying yes to things that might feel good. They might be ego things, and they might even be good causes. We just want them, you know, they might even be really good things. Very rarely are they bad things. So you're always saying no to the good so you can say yes to the great. But sometimes you have to just look at people and say, I can't do it. I'm so sorry. I was at a meeting a few weeks ago, and the former CEO and chairman of Ford Motor Company and Boeing Airlines was there, Alan Mulally. And we were having a conversation, and somebody came up to him and, you know, okay, excuse me. So he takes a little pause and he starts talking to this guy, and the guy asks him if he could help him out with a certain thing. And it had to do with him advising kind of in a board role for a group. And Alan said, you know, I think I'm going to have to say no this time, but I really appreciate you thinking of me, and I wish you well. And then he just kept talking to me. It was just,
wow.
It was just so masterful. Now you think of a guy like Alan Mulally. I mean, come on, that guy's getting, hey, all the time. But he's just really good at saying no. You have to be clear on what you're going to say no to, but that doesn't happen until you're crystal clear on everything you want to say yes to. Fill your days with the things that you want to say yes to. Don't get confused on this. I say yes to things at work, not because I'm so excited about doing them, but because I have the responsibility to do them, they come with my role. So if I'm going to accept the role, then I'd better be all in to do the things that the role requires in order for me to serve the mission of the company.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I don't want to do all of those things, then I shouldn't have the role, and I should step down and let somebody who wants to do that. And that's where some people get confused. They'll go, you know what? I heard Harkavy say, you don't need to work that hard. You don't need to do all these things. No, I never said that. I mean, if you're going to be a CEO, you're going to be on the executive team, you're going to run a region, a district, it comes with weight and responsibility. So when you say yes, count the cost and be ready to fully step into it, because the organization deserves that, as does your team, right?
Wow, 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 wow. I learn so much from you every time. We got to start talking more. So Daniel, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom, your gracious wisdom today. Let me back up a couple seconds. So I know you've just started a podcast. Tell us briefly a little bit about that and how people can get it.
So the podcast is not yet launched. What I did was I recorded the first podcast, the first episode.
Okay.
And the way we're going to do it, Dan, is we have these series, like TV series. So we have 2 series mapped out. Each series has 6 to 8 episodes. And we're going to get them all in the can. And then we're going to go ahead and release it to the public. So the first episode we sent to a few hundred people to get their feedback on, and we sent you that survey. And then that survey comes back. We're looking at all of that, and we're figuring out, did we have enough stories from others? Was there too much coach chat between me and the coach? And just trying to tweak it, because what we want it to be, when iTunes hopefully takes it and it's on there, we want it to be at the top. So it's slated to come out in May. So May, you will see the Building Champions podcast coming out, and it'll all be about leading and living with intentionality. How do you fill your days with more intentionality?
Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
You
That's
too,
awesome.
man.
Another accomplishment. So Daniel, thank you very much. How do people get in touch with you?
So our website is buildingchampions.com, and on there you've got all of our contact information. I'm at daniel@buildingchampions.com. That's my email, and our phone number up here is 503-670-1013. One of the ways you keep it all together is you have to have people on your team that help you. And Lynn Brown is the one that helps me. She's amazing. Mm-hmm. I'm getting ready to travel, so everything gets a little compressed when I travel. And Lynn is the one who makes sure that I get to show up where I show up. So she's the one who, when you contact me, she'll make sure that our schedules align. Just be patient, because when I go on the road, I'm gone. I'm client facing, and I'm right there present with my clients, and nothing else matters.
Beautiful. Daniel, thank you. And I love you, man. And look forward to talking again soon.
Thanks, Dan.
All right. We'll see you later.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.